G'day, that's Slot Car Guy here, and welcome back to another slot car review. And I've gone 124 crazy again. It's Carrera, it's Lola T70 Mark IIIB, and I've got a swap in, swap out motor. Why have I got this? Well, stick around and I'll tell you why. But also, thank you very much to Armchair Racer for sending it to me. This is going to be an epic teardown, hot lap, and motor swap. So stick around and let's get this thing around my track. So welcome back to another slot car review, and before I get into it, a massive thank you to Armchair Racer, because part of this review is their idea and they have sent me the motor and the car. So thank you guys, I appreciate the support. I wanted a Carrera 124 car, I wanted the Lola T70 because I believe this actual car and livery isn't being sold in America. I could be wrong, but that's the information I've been provided. The motor, on the other hand, was Armchair Racer's idea, and what an amazing idea it is, because these Carrera 124 cars run and love 18 volt. Now, I do run a Carrera track. You've seen it in my videos. I run Evolution and digital by changing in and out the power supply or the power base. But both my power supplies are 14 volts. So this car will not run to its maximum potential. And I will do a hot lap with this setup as is to show you how poor it will run on my track. This motor though is plug and play. Sits in the original housing. It actually plugs into the original plug, and it is a maximum 24 volt motor. So this will be running at 12 to 14 volt on my track, but it is a 30k motor. So this thing's gonna be an absolute weapon. Yes, I've tested it, it goes really well, but it's just gonna show us a different alternative. If you do want Carrera 124 cars and you don't have the power supply, which I'll put that up now, you can purchase that. I don't have it. Here's your alternative, and it's plug and play. So, as always, let's jump into it. Bit of a different teardown. I will not do the magnetic test on the motor because this is a 124 scale car. I'm not sure if it's going to sit on the base and do a proper review on it because of the weight of the car. So I won't test the magnetic pull of the motor, but we'll do everything else. Teardown, because inside here is very, very interesting. And when I tore it down to have a quick review of myself, some interesting stuff going on inside this car. So let's check out the livery, let's tear it down, and then let's do 2 times hot laps and see what difference this motor makes. Alrighty, so before we dive into the teardown, as always, let's check the packaging. And if you have purchased a Carrera slot car before in the 132 size, this is exactly the same packaging, but of course on a bigger scale. And look at that puppy, it is huge. But let's spin around because there is a warning you should take note on. On the back there it says with a big cross in white, do not use this on a 2/30 banked corner because it will damage the car. And also on the back window here, you still have your spares, so you've got some braid in there plus some replacement bonnet mirrors, which we'll zoom in on that in a tick. So let's zoom in, let's have a quick look at the livery. There's some really good highlights I want to point out, then we'll get stuck into the teardown. So let's check out the livery on this beautiful 124 Lola T70. So before we take a close look at the Lola T70's livery, let's have a look at the size comparison. We've got a 132 scale Mercedes by Carrera versus the 124 Lola T70. Now I will stand it up, and as you can see, there is a bit of a difference in size, and I'm using the Carrera track to show these cars off. But I'm a visual person, so it's good to see the size difference between the two scales. But now let's have a closer look, and I'll move that out of the way, at this Lola. Now the green that you're seeing through the camera is a lot lighter than the green that's in my hand. I'm going to call it teal, and you're getting a lighter version of this teal where mine's a touch darker. Let's have a look at the 124 figure. I'll zoom in. Now he's cut off around about under the armpits. He's wearing a white fire suit and a white open face helmet with some black gloves. Looks really cool. Now the decals on this are really, really nice. I don't know the livery. I'm not familiar with the livery, but I believe that is that the Sandman. I'll zoom in on him. Really cool looking decals. Around to the front, I love the front of this thing. Really nice big plastic light covers, and of course in real life these will be glass, but I love how they've replicated that so nicely. Now if we zoom in nice and close, just under the nose you'll see that little bit of air intake, that little black opening. Now if I spin it around as well, on the bonnet is what would be in real life an air intake or a cooling duct for whatever might be behind that, but unfortunately that's just textured plastic, but in real life of course they don't have holes to do what it needs to do to cool down the car. Now on the front and front right and left quarter panels we've got the driver's mirrors, and they come spare within the actual packaging yourself in that little clear window, so you do have another set of those if you lose them. And of course I love, and I'm going to zoom in on that, those fuel fillers. They're actually indented into the car. Really cool touch. But this colour is incredible. Passenger side, it's the same decals as the driver's side, but let's just focus on those tyres and rims, and we've got the Carrera branded tyres, and I love that spinning wheel nut in the centre, and of course the gold rims. And being 124, these are a lot bigger than 132. It looks really cool. Got some air ducts down the side here. We'll zoom in on that. Nice little feature, nice little cutout. There you go. And then the big one single windscreen wiper in black on the front. Now if you look on top, we can see the top of the engine, and you've got the two black engine covers on top, and they're textured as well, a little bit bumpy to be honest. The David Piper decal looks really, really cool. Around to the back, and I love this twin flick rear spoiler setup with the gully down the center, and I like how they've been painted silver with what looks to be rivets or screws that would be potentially on the real car. Now a little bit of a secret touch in the center. You'll see that little, looks like a silver buckle right in the center. That's the spare tire, and that's been held down by, looks like a strap or similar. And of course, that's not a real spare tire, that's just a plastic mold part of the car. I like that. I think that's really good how they've added some little detailing touch, but of course 124 scale, everything's bigger. Is bigger better? I don't know, but it looks good to me. So let's do a quick teardown. Inside this thing there's a lot going on. We'll take it for a test run as is, and then we'll jump into an engine swap, or a motor swap. So let's get stuck into the teardown. So I have removed the shell and the chassis, and all it took was 4 screws. Very simple to do, but let's check out this chassis and we'll talk through it together. So this is a digital car. We've got active front lights. Both 132 and 124 scale digital cars come with active lights. You've got your digital chip here, which is different to the 32 scale chip. This is a lot bigger. These connectors, if you're used to Carrera, you'll be familiar with these. Very, very good. Disconnect the motor, disconnect the chip, and disconnect the lights. Very simple to do. Talk about the motor, we've got a Sidewinder driven by the left wheel and tyre, and in front of that motor is this little, I'm not sure if I can zoom in, this little plastic casing, and underneath that is a bar magnet. Also inside the motor mount itself, there's a bar magnet just near the rear axle, which I'll show you in a tick. Active lights at the rear. Let's flip it upside down. There is your sensor light for your chip, so that will go across the actual sensor on the track. Once it flashes, you'll change lanes, and there's your analog digital on and off. So you can actually drive this on an analog track. And your guide arm is slightly bouncy. So I wouldn't say it's adjustable, but there's a bit of movement in that. So really cool. So let's take this for a fly around my track with the standard motor, then we'll come back and do a motor change and see if there's any difference.
One 16.08 seconds.
I fitted the new motor into our motor mount, and it was very, very simple. It took under a minute, but there's a couple of steps you need to do to make sure it fits properly. Now, normally there is 2 screws that screws the motor into the actual pod itself. You will not use those. The instruction says don't. You don't need to use them because this motor is a little bit fatter, a little bit wider, than the original, so it fits in this pod very, very simple. Now, of course, those screws and the axles removed when you're fitting it so you can remesh the rear pinion and spur gear. Put that back in, very, very simple. But when installing it, make sure the riding and the actual wires for the motor come through and up through this hole so you don't get any crushing effect on the sides. Very simple to install. Then it's simply dropping it in to the original mounts. Put the 4 screws back in, put the body back on, and it's ready to go. So I'm gonna do that. We're gonna chuck it on the track and see if this thing gives us a little bit of extra punch on our 14 volt setup.
One 13.26 seconds. 13.46 seconds. Lap 3, 11.12 seconds. Final lap 21. Lap 4, 11.12 seconds.
So I guess the question is, was this a worthy update to my car, or should I just go and purchase an 18 volt power supply instead of installing the RMS 124? Now I'm going to go on a limb and say, I think most of my viewers would potentially have the standard power supply if they're running Carrera, which is the 14 volt, and that comes in your 132 digital and evolution sets. Yes, you can go out and buy the separate 18 volt power supply to run the 124 range, or you can go and buy a 124 set from Carrera, which will come with the power. But you don't need to, and I'll tell you why, because this motor has seriously impressed me. And this is probably going to be a two-part recommendation. Now, this motor wants 18 volt. This is a standard motor, and of course it wants 18 volt. So it's an unfair test, and I did a 1536, which is very slow. And let's face it, this wants to run on 18 volt, and this car would then boogie. But installing this was seriously simple. The RMS 124 was one of the simplest projects I've tackled. And if you are a novice, grab one of these and one of these and do it, because this will give you confidence to tackle bigger projects in the future. And the gains were impressive. So 1536 versus an 1112, 4-second gain from a 1 minute to 5 minute install. That is incredible. And I haven't even touched the tires, so I actually can't believe that. But I do have to thank Armchair Racer, because I wanted to review a 124 scale Carrera car, but I had the standard power, and they said, Trav, install this motor, do the review, and it will blow you away. And I'll tell you what, their recommendations were perfect. So please support your local. And yes, you can run 124 Carrera on your standard power supply from doing a simple motor swap. So massive thank you to Armchair Racer, at That Slot Car Guy on Instagram, and obviously on YouTube. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like, and please comment. Was this a worthy update? Do you think I should just go and buy a power supply, or will you go and get one of these and try it yourself? But also stay tuned, because I've got a lot of cars coming. There's a lot of reviews coming, so I'm going to be a very busy boy. So stay tuned. The channel is just getting better and more fun. So I thank everyone for watching, but a massive thank you to Armchair Racer. So take care, guys. Be safe. Ciao.